On the day of the incident, a sheriff's deputy located a vehicle in an apartment complex that was associated with Mr. Cornell. Another deputy responded to the area to assist. Additional detectives arrived to survey the area. During the surveillance, one of the detectives broadcast over the radio that Mr. Cornell had run from another vehicle into a nearby apartment complex. The detective stated on the radio that he saw Mr. Cornell reach into his waistband and it appeared he may have a handgun. Another deputy broadcast that Mr. Cornell had jumped over a fence. One deputy went over the fence and down the embankment. A second sheriff's deputy followed behind. The first deputy then walked up at a dirt slope and into a yard with his firearm drawn. When he approached the house, he saw a man who later was determined to be a resident on his hands and knees who appeared to be in distress. He also saw a woman behind the man near a doorway. The deputy asked the man if he had seen anyone running around, and the man pointed in front of him. The deputy walked forward and up a small flight of stairs. As soon as the deputy reached the top of the stairs and the corner of a shed, he saw Mr. Cornell to his right. The deputy stated Mr. Cornell was crouching down behind a plastic children's pool, as if taking cover and hiding in a position to ambush him. The deputy saw Mr. Cornell holding something in his hands that appeared to be hard and covered with a t-shirt. The other deputy also saw Mr. Cornell holding something dark and wrapped around his right hand. He believed the object to be a gun. Both deputies gave Mr. Cornell commands which he did not comply with. One deputy saw Cornell quickly pull his hands from behind his back and brought them up as if drawing a firearm. The deputy fired several rounds at Mr. Cornell. The second deputy ran up the stairs when he heard gunshots. This deputy did not know whether Mr. Cornell was shooting or whether his fellow deputy was shooting. Mr. Cornell was struck with bullets, rolled to his right on his stomach with his hands concealed beneath him near his waistband. A deputy approached Cornell, and when he got closer, Cornell quickly turned his left shoulder towards the deputy. Fearing Cornell was going to pull a handgun out from underneath his body and shoot him, the deputy fired 2 more rounds. There were 2 civilians to witness parts of the shooting. The first witness is the man who encountered Mr. Cornell and was in apparent distress and fear. The witness told investigators he saw Cornell pull his shirt up and remove it. He saw Cornell wrap the shirt around his right hand and place both of his hands near his chest. The witness stated Cornell turned his back and faced away from him. The witness saw deputies running up the stairs to Cornell's location and heard one of the deputies yell for Cornell to get down. The witness said he was approximately 30 to 40 feet from Cornell when one of the deputies began shooting. The witness felt bullets going by him and saw them strike Cornell. The witness said Cornell was on his knees getting down to the ground when he was shot. A second witness observed the moments leading up to the shooting from a window on the side of a house. This witness heard screaming outside and looked out his door. He saw deputies looking towards the west. The witness moved to a window in the kitchen and looked out in the direction. He saw Mr. Cornell taking off his shirt and crouching or kneeling with his hands curled in fists in front of his chest, below his jaw. The witness did not see what Cornell did with his shirt, nor did he remember seeing the shirt on Cornell's hands. The witness headed back towards the door to tell the deputies where Cornell was. Before he reached the doorway, he heard gunshots. He did not witness the actual shooting as he was unable to see that area while moving from the window to his doorway as the shooting occurred. After a thorough review of the evidence, the District Attorney's Office has determined that the deputy's use of deadly force was reasonable under the circumstances. Several factors were considered. The deputies had recently received information on Mr. Cornell's outstanding felony warrant, his criminal history, his status as a suspect in 2 violent crimes, including the murder of a child, where he used a firearm in those incidents. Deputies were also advised to use caution because Cornell was considered armed and dangerous. Cornell was a member of the criminal street gang that threatened members of the Sheriff's Department, including the particular deputy involved, in retaliation for fellow gang members killed in prior officer-involved shootings. Specifically, there was a threat to the deputy involved in this incident and a threat to his family. There were posts on social media that indicated that harm was being encouraged and that Mr. Cornell expected to die. During the incident, Cornell fled from deputies and attempted to elude capture. When the first witness saw Cornell in this yard, Cornell signaled for him to be quiet as deputies approached. Cornell removed his shirt and wrapped it around his right hand, which could reasonably be interpreted as either an attempt to hide a handgun or as an attempt to simulate having a handgun. No handgun was recovered at the scene. In either scenario, Cornell did not want the deputies to be able to immediately recognize what, if anything, he held in his hands at the moment he drew towards them. When a deputy walked up the stairs to the upper level of the yard where the witness was hiding, he saw Cornell in a crouching position facing him, initially with his hands behind his back. Cornell quickly brought his hands forward, holding what appeared to the deputy as a handgun wrapped in a t-shirt.